Medical Terminology, Chapter 13, the integumentary system. Integument means a covering or skin. The integumentary system is the skin, its glands, hair, nails, and other structures. Because it's on the outside of our bodies, we are more familiar with the skin than any other organ. And we don't think of the skin as an organ, but it definitely is. And so when we look at the functions of the skin, there are abbreviations, letters to make this abbreviation a little bit much easier for you to remember all the function, because the word derma means skin. So the skin is involved in the synthesis of vitamin D. Vitamin D is very important to us, and so vitamin D we get when we're exposed to the sunlight. When the sun shines on our skin, it produces that vitamin D, and we need vitamin D for strong bones. It helps to build our bones, and it also is involved with our immune system as well. So vitamin D is very important. E, it helps eliminate waste through perspiration, meaning when we sweat, it helps get rid of some of that waste that we have. It helps to regulate the temperature of our body. So whenever we perspire, we cool down. And then it makes information about the environment available to the brain through receptors. So whenever we feel, touch, it sends a message through our afferent nerves to our brain to interpret. And so whenever we're feeling and touching things, we are able to sense what it is. And it acts as a barrier to disease-causing organisms. So it is on the external and it covers our body. It's the largest organ, so it protects us from disease-causing organisms. So let's look at the layers of the skin. So here's a great diagram on the layers of the skin. If you look at the layers of the skin here, you have the epidermis. So it's kind of like the outer, remember, kind of like the outer, and then under, it's kind of like underneath. So that's why epi means underneath, and so below. So epidermis, then you have your dermis layer, which is kind of where all your hair follicles, sweat glands are, and then you have your subcutaneous area, where is your fat tissue and some of that blood vessels that are coming in there. And so the epidermis is composed of 4 to 5 layers, and the palms and soles of the feet have the greatest number of layers. You can just imagine the amount of track, or the amount of how we use our hands and our feet when we're walking. That's why we have the most amount of layers in there, because we're constantly pounding on and it's constantly peeling. So the epidermal means pertaining to or resembling the epidermal means pertaining or resembling the epidermis layer, which is the most outer layer than anything else. And the outer layer consists of cells that are non-living and are constantly being shed and replaced. So your skin layers is constantly peeling off all the time. It's regenerating. So the top layer, these cells that we talk about, is these cells contain keratin. And keratin is a waterproofing protein that hardens over several days. This kind of protects us because it's almost kind of like our raincoat. It's waterproof, so we're not absorbing water, so it actually protects us. Keratin is a scleroprotein. The combining form sclera means hard, which helps to describe the scaly or horny nature of the keratin. So that's why keratin is a scleroprotein. It is hard and it helps to keep our surface skin hard for us as well. And then when we look at the hair, as you can see here, The pilomuscle, which is kind of like this right here, the pilomotor muscle, it is actually the muscle that helps keep the actually the hair follicle, the hair straight, and also we'll talk more about the sweat glands and sebaceous gland with the next slides that we're going to be going to. Okay. So when it says accessory skin structure, it's really actually talking about your hair, the nails, your sebaceous gland that secretes the oily material which keeps your hair and skin soft and palatable and prevents the growth of bacteria. Then of course you also have your sweat glands, and your sweat gland goes on ahead and when there's increase in temperature or emotions or stress, you will perspire. So that is your sweat glands that will go ahead and sweat out to the surface for you. So when we look at the accessory skin structure again, perspiration or sweat that is produced by the sweat glands here. It's a mixture of water, salt, and other waste product. And really its primary function is to keep us, cool, regulates our body temperature. We get too hot, it perspires. We get too cold, we're not going to perspire with that. It maintains heat. And so our body is able to go ahead and have those receptors so that we can sense our body temperature, and then our body responds by sweating or not sweating. There's two kinds of sweat glands. There's one associated with the hair follicle in here, and it points it out in here as well. So those that are associated with the hair follicle is the apocrine glands. It looks like it's kind of starting out right here, and it goes to the hair follicle. That's kind of the apocrine sweat glands. And then we have sweat glands that are not associated with the hair follicle, and these are the eccrine sweat glands, and they open right to the surface, so it doesn't have anything to do with the hair follicles at all. And you'll notice here there's this erector pill, or the pilomotor muscle that kind of contracts, and it kind of keeps their hair follicles straight, and it produces goosebumps or goose flashes because it's a muscle. It's going to contract, and that's how you get those goosebumps. And here's some terminology related to the skin, so you'll need to memorize these skin. So cutanoderma, derma means skin, lipo means fat, kerato, remember that horny skin layer, and mainly you have it more in your heels and on your hand. And then of course the suffix derma also means skin or germ layer. And hydro means sweat, unco means nail, pilo, trico means hair, sebo means sebum. And so let's look at your nails next here. So of course the fingernails and toes have that sclera, or the keratin layer, and that keratin layer is more abundant in your toe and fingernails as well. And the nails are a thin plate of dead epidermis, contains a very hard type of keratin, protects the fingers and toes and helps us to pick up small objects. And then the nail matrix is responsible for the growth of the hair, so the growth of the nail. So it's kind of like we're always growing our nails out with that. It has that widest crescent shape area called the luna. And so nails appear pink because of the rich supply of blood vessels that are underneath the nail, because the nail, is semi-transparent. So that's why it looks kind of pink. It's because of the blood vessels underneath. And so another word for habit of nail biting here is oncophagia. An oncophagist is a habitual, okay, an oncophagist habitually bites the nails. I mean, this is a person who likes to bite their nails. And another combining form for nail is ungo. And an adjective form of it is ungoel. That means pertaining to the nails. And so when you're looking at your surface area here, there are spinal nerves associated with where you sense certain things. So they even have it in here, your C's and your T's and your L's. It's just the same thing as when you're looking at your central nervous system, and also looking at your looking at your central nervous system and looking at your different section of your nerve, the C3, C4s, the T1, T2, and all the way to the lumbar. So it helps to go ahead and specifically target an area of your nerve that might be causing you pain. So if you are experiencing pain in a certain section in the abdomen area and you point to it, then they can say this is really definitely T8. So it's kind of pinpointing where on your skin that you might be sensing pain or some other things going on, that you're feeling some kind of sensation that you can point directly. So they're called dermatomes. And here are some word parts, pathology word parts. Erythemato means, erythema or redness. Follicle means that follicle, that sac or pouch-like depression or cavities, kind of like the hair follicle. Ichio means dry and scaly. Necro, we've had that from another chapter, dead or death. Septo is also from another chapter. It deals with infection. And of course, I went on. The other one was, the term was dry. So here's some other terminology. Exfoliating is falling away of tissue. When you're exfoliating, some people use exfoliation. There's certain products out there to help exfoliate their skin so that the new skin underneath can grow. Induration is hardening of a tissue, and it usually caused by edema and inflammation. And again, erythema is redness, blush. It can be inflammation, it can be sunburn, it can be just the redness. So here is some skin pictures that are put here for us to view. This is urticaria, is an allergic skin eruption characterized by transient elevated irregular shaped lesions that are called wheals. So usually this is happens with allergic reactions. Sometimes all of a sudden you have these kind of like wheals, and the treatment is usually antihistamine or removing whatever is causing that allergy, either via a skin product or a medication or food that people consume. And here is an ulcer of the leg. It's a regular shape. It is on the dermis surface area. It does kind of look pretty awful. And then, of course, you have your fissures. They're kind of deep linear splits through the epidermis and the dermis. So you just kind of see they're just kind of blisters and they're just kind of splitting apart in here. And then you have skin infections. There's two types. There's herpes simplex type 1, causes fever and blister, and there's herpes zoster, a virus causing shingles. So some people will get it in here. I think type 1 type 1 causes the classic fever, blister, and you can see on her mouth here, and fever, and also it's called cold sores because they are often followed by a cold or a fever. And the cause of these fever blisters and infection with the type 1 herpes simplex virus or HS1. And HS1 should not be confused with HS2. HS2, herpes HS2 usually causes a genital herpes infection that generally limits to the genital area. So don't get herpes simplex 1 confused with the herpes that is a sexually transmitted disease. And then skin infection, this is dermatomycosis. This is actually wingworms. It's a kind of a more of a fungus infection than anything. So superficial to the skin. So when you see someone having this, it's kind of circular like this, or even on the head area. Sometimes you'll see on the head with little babies or children, you'll have this kind of circular ring, and they call it ringworm. It doesn't mean that the child or the person has ringworm. It just says they have a fungus infection of their skin. And here is a picture of a squamous cell carcinoma. So kind of we're looking at cancer with this picture. And then this is a malignant melanoma, it's cancer of the skin. And then lacerations, injuries. So when you look at the first one here, the picture in a laceration is a torn, jagged wound. And then picture B is a contusion, which is a bruise. And picture C here is more of excoriations from tree branch scratching as shown in this picture here. And then we talk about injuries to the skin. We talk about burns. There's total body surface area. There's the partial thickness, superficial or deep or full thickness. And we'll spend a little time talking about this. So when you're looking at burns, they look at it as in first, second, third, fourth degree, but there's also other terms used for it. Either superficial partial thickness, it's deep partial thickness, and full thickness. So it depends on the level of the burn here and how far it has burned down. So in this picture, you will see this is more of a superficial burn. And then the second picture B is more of a deep partial thickness burn. And the third shows a full thickness burn. So it's kind of like your third or fourth degree burn. And here's a picture of tissue necrosis when there's tissue that is rotting and there's death to the tissue. It will definitely turn blue, black, and so this is tissue necrosis. And then here are additional combining words that you'll need to know: cold, sun, transmission, wrinkle. And then that's it for this PowerPoint slide on integumentary system.